Hi, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the readings in contemporary poetry here at DIA. Vincent Katz will be introducing the poets. My name is Jasmine Raymond. I'm DIA's curator, and I'm very happy to open the season today. This is the first program we're hosting. Oopsie. And I'm just want to give a little background on how this series initiated. DIA had been holding these contemporary readings for many years, and there was a temporary pause. And when I joined DIA about 3 years ago, I was having dinner with Vincent, and I was saying to him, Filip and I talk a lot about how poetry is very present in the production and in the things that artists are talking about. And when we go to studio, we encounter these commonalities and parallels between artists and poets. And more, we were noticing that artists oftentimes quote poets and are friends with poets and so on. So we decided to take a stab again and invited Vincent to join us and guide us in this experiment of the series. So we're delighted that he accepted, and this is our second year? Third year. We're sorry. Whoa, time flies. The readings in contemporary poetry are supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs. And I would like to extend a warm thank you to Amalia Dayan and Adam Lindemann, Barbara and Charlie Wright, and an anonymous donor for their generous support of this program. We also like to thank also Brooklyn Brewery for their complimentary beverage. And finally, I would like to thank the poets, Judith Malina and Filip Marinovich, for their generous acceptance of our invitation and to be part of this series. And to my colleagues here at DIA, John Sprague, Patrick Haleman, Kelly Kiflin, Rebecca Rice, Carrie David, Megan Whitko, and Sarah Zielinski for their help behind the scenes. Their work oftentimes doesn't get seen, but their enormous contribution to this program. Thank you, and I'll let Vincent do the proper introductions.
Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you all for coming this evening. It's a real pleasure to kick off this season with Filip Marinovich and Judith Malina, two great poets. So we'll have, Filip will read first, and then I think we'll take a short break, and then Judith will read. Filip Marinovich is a poet and playwright. He's the author of Zero Readership, published by Ugly Duckling Press in 2008, and If You Don't Go Crazy, I'll Meet You Here Tomorrow, also by Ugly Duckling from 2011. He wrote and directed the plays Skin Around the Earth, Throne Room Snow, and The Karma Bookshop for his theater company, Comet Party. His work has appeared in the journals Aufgabe, Brooklyn Rail, EOG, Lungful, Revolutionesque, and 6x6. He lives in New York City. Filip is a double Virgo with a Pisces moon, born on September 19th, 1975 in Pittsburgh, PA. He went to boarding school at Brooks School in North Andover, Mass., and to college at Columbia and grad school at Columbia School of the Arts. He has a BA in English and an MFA in poetry. He studied poetry with Kenneth Koch and Ron Padgett at Columbia, and has lived in New York, Yugoslavia, New England, California, France, and Greece. He's worked as a teacher at Columbia School of the Arts, the Poetry Project at St. Mark's Church, and taught a poetry workshop for Occupy Wall Street at Harvard last winter. He also worked as librarian for Occupy Wall Street at Zuccotti Park last fall. Zero Readership, an epic, 2008, comes with notations that track the geopolitical transformation of Belgrade from Yugoslavia to Serbia and Montenegro to Serbia. So this poetry has partially a journalistic function. It intends to show, via poetry, the settings of a particular war-torn part of the nearby landscape. It simultaneously presents the voice of a young person beginning his journey in the world and in the world of poetry. Quote, 4 black suitcases against the china cupboard. What did she pack them for? We're going, from his poem, Extended Family Voices. It takes nerve to subtitle one's first collection an epic, but coming as it does on the heels of the main title, Zero Readership, it is both a challenge and a prediction. This life, like all lives, will be epic. The poetry knows that, and Marinovich is confident enough and is sufficiently prepared, poetically speaking, to take on that challenge, which is the challenge of all artists at all times. Now it's me, as Ted Berrigan reminded history. Long lines in Marinovich's poetry, like prose, tell the story of the emotion, carrying the narrator from one place to another. Medium lines, like song lyrics, feel the music of the times, registered as specific persons speaking. Short lines, like baubles, go into magic of incantation. History is interwoven with the daily, interjection, the history of a family, interwoven with the history of a culture, a continent. But there is another level, too, which is the level of the play of language, which shoots occasionally to the surface. In the crazy love affair this poet has with the present, we are invited along on the ride and are happy to go there, even though he doesn't know where that journey leads yet. The excitement of the trip is enough. As he puts it, you want to make love in Kandahar with the bombs coming down. I welcome you to the exciting world of Filip Marinovich.
Thanks, Vincent. Thanks, everybody, for coming. It's really great to be reading with you, Judith. I'm going to read a long poem called Mayflower Gangplank. Truman, all too Truman. Boom! No way to close that parentheses. Prosthesis, hinges, jaw. Jawbone steering wheel of the articulate macaw. Why can't you love me, Richard? Think not of the morrow, marrow bones, and scrub the pavement in all kinds of weather. Banished from the castle tomorrow. Lose hair, limo, parking. My secret Hermes and his siblings. I know they rode sleds. Gemless in Wall Street to the bank with fuck all. My secret Hermes, victuals weren't enough for him. He had to take a shower, and gemless, breast upon breast, sleep with his mother to find out he'd been raised a wolf in a basket, range-free. I'm cold, Mama, I'm cold. I can smell the heather. I can see the elf king coming for the Mayflower Gangplank. Back when I was your page and had too much, oh, incest, where is thy sting? In my knee, take it out, please. The Pepto-Bismol isn't working. My stomach on display for the renegades, 300 in my mind. How did they get out of their HD cage? TV. I raise free-range TVs, and for breakfast I eat my knees. Find lunch free, not helplessly strange to the new conditions. Cruising the hostel for strange, he came to you to confess and used the guest-host relationship to shield himself. The company psychologist, Yakfest, the guardian cadences of the sleeping sounded. Good job went up in succotash. Lola? Yes. This one, nothing. I just wanted to see if you're there. There around mountains turning to air, there are oud mountains tuning to thick air. Are you a poet? Well, I used to write, but I don't have time for any writing anymore. Well, I hope you find it again. Yeah, you have a good day. Thanks. What were we talking about before we left off? Where the rubber meets the rose. The bear came down from the hills and handed me an acorn on the corn cob pipe cop. Who do you write for? The 300 people in your mind? I write for, they must be saved too, but I'm a big delusional failure of a human being if I think that's what I'm doing. I, United States citizen, who I write for is not the question. That's softball as Dad shuts the basement door. The question is, how is it I'm a mass murderer and have never killed a person in my life? Taxes, what are taxes? With taxes, the line grows thick, is freighted, and there's no race to blame it on. There's no one. The brain got swollen up, a flaw in evolution, and that doesn't solve it. Stop trying to solve it. This is the cable car to the castle. Cruising the hostel for strange will not save you from vengeance you've incurred for paying taxes for children detonation. Sam, uncle, cry, uncle, but it doesn't help. Who are you? An American citizen? Then poetry is learning how to die. Every time you give up a prejudice, you die. Learn how to die. The poetry will take care of itself, but I'm already dead. You don't get off that easy. This is your new study, rent-free, Guantanamo Bay. Small room, but a pleasant breeze between the lashings, acids, screams. Are those your own screams? I feel they are not a part of me, my screams. I deal in rectal creams for the spirits passing through me to be lubricated on their way out. About where did we leave off? Where the rubber meets the tube rose. I saw the raccoon again last night. Hey, mister, I said I saw the raccoon again last night. Why call me mister? I am your father. That's a matter of debate. Ha, 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 ha. Where did we leave off? The American Beauty rose. More fun than a frog bobbing in a glass of milk. I like Ike. The demolition derby postponed due to rain, water leaking through my wheelbarrow. So much pen, so little listen. The birds know. They crap on you so you can be lucky. The carburetor goes unchanged beneath your ribs. Have some stick-to-itiveness on your ribs. Draw yourself on your lobster bib. It's summer, and you've not been invited to the Hamptons yet. To save the 300 Hamptons in your mind, with the 300 Peter Framptons guarding life in high white chairs with the flayed skin of white people nailed to each lifeguard chair. How can we dare to be unhappy? We will be happy. So here's the pink lemonade, and the sea is yellow, from which the bear rises with the acorn in his paw. And now you have acorn jello to make as you wait for the iceberg you are inside to thaw. Ah, poor you, articulate macaw. I'm rich inside. I have 300 people to save in my mind. How do I get health insurance for these people? Miami-Dade County, dude. Welcome to the community. Open casket toothpaste leaves your teeth feeling the tradition. The tradition? Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. If only Paris' mother had destroyed him, cracked her son's skull open when she bore him, never sent him to Mount Ida, wouldn't have changed shit from Shinola. I am totally jazzed off those rose quartz rocks I just picked up from Venus in retrograde. I saw the raccoon again last night. Hey, mister, I said I saw the raccoon porches of the ears. Nowhere over nobody's United States are the front and back porches dying. Everybody's porches are alive. Everybody's poor opens up and says, I'm just being neighborly. No one's porch is in any way sick. This porch just had a heart transplant. Now it takes a bath among the neighborly. Throw salt over your boulder, Sisyphus schizophrene. Shepherds sleep in salt shakers, and in their frowns the lamplight noticed, I want to be accepted like the blight, the lamp blight, when all the lamps died. The tall gooseneck got it in the neck, got an Oscar for it. I would like to thank my agency, a man who cannot see because he is sleeping with his mother, a comedy in the 21st Electra Orestes century. I saw the raccoon again last night. Hey, mister, I said I saw. Why call me mister? I am your father. Father is in the observatory. Wolfman is a great place to get pizza. Trying to find out what price Fortin Brasserie bread loaves are these days, you really have to replay the Civil War battles in your mind to get the reenactment right. Come to Daddy on an inside straight. Hey, Dad, the raccoon came again last night. Who gets the last corn on the cob? You do. No, you do. I don't want it, pal. Since when do you call me Al? That's your brother's name. Pal. Since when are you deaf? Since a little while ago? Oh, off to the beachhead. Beforehead. The most beautiful thing in the world is like random, awkward. Heraclitus on the raft of the Medusa, on the raft of the Med USA with green Captain Jericho. I'm ready to go. Are you ready? I'm ready to go. All in the happily incest America tonight on the HPV Evening News. Hey, mister, I saw the raccoon again last night. Nice rack. Hey, that's your dad. How can you talk to him like that? He has man boobs. So do you. Mine are inherited. So are his. From who? His father, the sea, his father. The sea doesn't have man boobs. I don't see any fucking man boobs on the sea, man. No, I don't. Oh, yes, I do. Here they come, man. Here they come, dude. The man boobs of the sea, man. I mean, I was cross about being fired, but then what can you do? The chips are dissolving in your drink, and they are ice chips, the same your driveway is made with. Give my best to the arabesque, the curved line you start to see when you're 36 and a half, the line from where you began, pooped out in a cornfield, and from then on, Belgrade eraser party, open casket Paris, come in. You're my city, baby, you're my city. Will your wet braid dial me after it's electrocuted you? Yummy. The cat took me to Neptune, and we saw Saturn rings made of braided cat whiskers, and from the morgue family porch, a double rainbow. I am through with connectivity, but I still do love connections. I don't have a community, but I do have an erection. I don't have an erection, but erection has me for bleeding lunch, mate. I am fed to the lunch mob above my bed while the pony birches stomp under my window all night and will not be slept with. The 300 people I saved in my mind last night are some babies who weren't even born before. I run a damp white cloth over my Macintosh convertible and thank the good Lord I'm a white American and that I survived the Middle Passage just enough times to forget about it from the standpoint of interbeing. I'm just vast enough to be a car dealership. But haven't you guessed it? I'm none of these. But I am your guest, the one you tear your tiles up to find. You find me in your pulpit in the United States Congress, where separation of church and state is celebrated, though never enacted. We are leaving the earth in a spaceship, and how Earth gets out of said spaceship is entirely Earth's business. You just can't interfere with the development of an infant planet. It stunts it. The 300 people I saved in my mind last night are after me with pitchforks tonight, and as I walk them to the infirmary on a cold Massachusetts night, I thank the helicopters above for sending me my priorities down on rope ladders. Priority skeletons in the night, but priorities. No sense in spooking yourself. White spook came over on the Mayflower and was fed to passages on the middle shark. For reparations, I will be undressed of my skin and nailed to the white lifeguard chair. On a clear day, you can see Long Island. Fill it up with unleaded, please. Fill it up with Long Island green. It's good business. My secret Hermes in Mayflower Crow's Nest sings, a casket for my sneakers, a funeral for my shoes. Open up my wolf mouth now, give me your Texas crude. Sounds like adventures, dentures of King Arthur, chattering beneath the lake. If only I knew how to give head to the lady of the lake. Excuse me as I pause to find out how to speak post-decapitation English. Ask Abby the cat. My archive is complete. I want to go through my closet and toss it. My memory becomes keen as the pivotal object disappears, but I am the pivotal object, and I refuse to disappear by the pineal lamp. Let's go see if the raccoon came back to get his mask, where we are using it for a doormat. What does your husband do? He's a raccoon person. Listen to your gut between guttings. Here at Merrill Lynch, we hire the ants away from your picnic basket so we can train them to enter your casket as they wish. Open casket Paris. It's all deep dish. Rabbit is training to become a project manager. Yeah, Rabbit missed the wet part of the evening. Booby. Only one booby? What happened to the other booby? Well, we are talking about the Capitol building. Califragilistic crisis. Drool opens up a school. Slobber horse is why. Peep show neighbor. Seahorse feels like a gerbil. Rabbit feels like a yellow gerbil tube seahorse is climbing through. Although most people know Duluth, who knows my loot? If you're an artist, you don't care. If you're a craftsman, beware. Live at the Doug is not the last live album I recorded in one night. American Night, a great place to work with no distractions. Truman opened my door. I'm not a forced writer. I am a forest writer. I remember being a pioneer. People crawled into my set lists. Only trouble is we fell ear to ear in Time for the Wedding, late June. The setting is bloodletting. On Bikini Island, testing rubber band, tasting bomber sand, grout snout of a wolf smashed to hold together blue tiles of a community shower for the students. There on the beach at Normandy, Park City, Utah, we saw a flying saucer streak across the sky in front of us. The nation's most profoundly challenging outdoor menu opened in front of us, and in we drove. Where the rubber meets my load, the raccoon met me backstage and came up for dissection in the high school cafeteria operating theater. I'm here to pick up my daughter and dance away with her. You don't have a daughter. That's never stopped me before. Beforehead, dig, instantaneous mummy pig comes free. Delightfully US of Innisfree. The shore is just another wave. You can see the movies of your life playing out on it, the rose quartz easy zodiac screen. I am so happy to complete a sentence for you and that we lost our friendship over it. Napes are next to you. My secret Hermes returns, and that right soon. You like to rip your nightshirt a little for the occasion. Your medication is absorbed better that way. The extensor carpi radialis brevior reinforced by the Excalibur ligament mentee between us and vocal strangers. Who's there? Lear King, nothing, noshing on fool's cap and gown graduation shroud. And they keep the coffins down at Dover, wherefore to Dover, pluck out his eyes! Out, out, vile, jellies, slippery. I talked too much in the dorm, woke up with a trash can of snow on me. Both on the bed, we saw the frigging. He kept refreshing a whole ton of bees, knew how to bring, without poisoning his brain, cloisonne roisterers to the ER. I know they rode sleds, gemless in Wall Street with my secret Hermes. Victuals weren't enough for him. He had to take a shower and, gemless, breast upon breast, sleep with his mother to find out he'd been raised a wolf in a basket, range free. I'm cold, Mama, I'm cold. I can smell the heather. I can see the elf King Kong coming for the Mayflower gangplank. I won't slave. If I could put a treadle right there, I could gate the mic automatically. I won't leave you sinking down. Relax, it's just a war. You can eat finer salt in the bunker. Iodize it yourself with iodine. Should I give up on having a life in the bird feeder? No. The holes are just in the right places. I talked too much. That was my mistake. Dad, I saw the raccoon you are. You, raccoon, Dad, you. My father killed me. I talk through knife holes. The holes are just in the right places. The holes come out of holes. Can I borrow a hole? You are the hole. Ambulatory black hole. Hello. I'll do two more to make it a triptych because these gray curtains really remind me of Francis Bacon, and I love Francis Bacon triptychs. Wood butcher. We are all damned, the carpenter says, and I'm a wood butcher when I tell him you're a sculptor. He says, a year ago at this time, I had surgery with hazel eyes, surgery to remove a Christ from my skull I had dreamed about since I was 12. The fact that Christ was there without his apostles explains nothing. His cradle looked like the Christ in the Christ of the Virgin of Megalith, like the Della Robbia blue Virgin of Asphyxiation, hanging in the treetop aviary with the Avion glass bottle wind chimes. I always say, if you can stab it and it doesn't bleed, it ain't my work. If you can stab it and it doesn't bleed, nail a tree to it and nail me to the tree, the cradle I made for 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, family, family, family on 3. The football team kills the family at kickoff and the field goal makes it 3, like baby, it's war. The dead are here and you don't know how to breathe for their attendance. You have to attend. Here they come. Set the table, the cherry table you made with the cherry wood. It has lights in it. I only pick the trees that grow out of the most difficult earth because it makes them tough, and I want tough trees. Tough trees are me. Tough trees are mean. They raise me. I am number 1 in the tough tree family, the only child in the tough tree family tree you'll see. Isn't that glory? A carpenter. We have to learn how to serve each other, to go under the people who would put other people down and serve them and make the good in them happen. And we are damned to serve. This cradle, a glyph, a letter, this wood cradle is burning, but the baby will never burn in it. The baby who will never burn in it cut the umbilical cord and the telephone cord with one sword. It's war. I'm so hot. I'm so hot for you. When I walk, I can feel the balls moving in my pants. The pants are mine, but not the balls. I am an American. Anthem, anthem, anthem. Hand sanitizer, American anathemizer. Euthanasia stands at my back, waiting to invade me when I fall. I've fallen and I can't get up. I am an American. It means my car is broken and I can't get my teeth fixed and my health insurance comes from the moon above my house, a moon for the misbegotten, because begotten in the America of begatting, every corner a gat, boom, boom. The grammar of corner, man, corner, mad, and coroner. So gat me out of here. But I know not the alternative. Ernie and Bert know it. You have to have a paperclip collection and pigeons on the roof when your puppet roommate dies of AIDS. I am Ernie, dead of AIDS. I am Ernie among the shades. See me after class. See me after America admits it has a class problem. When smell freezes over the moon, the cow jumped over my spoon as I was cooking the whipped cream dollop in it. Attack of the Lapdogs is the name of this excavation site. Attack of the Kermit dogs. Thank you.
It's my great pleasure to introduce Judith Malina. Judith was born in Kiel, Germany in 1926, the daughter of a rabbi and an actress who gave up her career to raise a family. Judith always imagined herself as an actress, and not long after the family moved to New York in 1929, she began performing in benefit programs for Jews suffering under the Nazis, understanding at an early age the link between art and politics. In 1945, she became the pupil of Erwin Piscator at the New School for Social Research, where he created the dramatic workshop. It was in that workshop that Malina realized that she would want to direct as well as act. With life partner Julian Beck, she co-founded the Living Theater in 1947. For over 60 years, the Living Theater has challenged preconceptions of the role of art, beginning with the political plays of the late 50s and early 60s, and continuing in the late 60s and on to break completely the boundaries between play and audience, drama and reality, art and life, always in the name of liberation from oppression and absolute freedom of expression. Judith has appeared in several Hollywood films and received numerous awards in addition to her Living Theater activities. She's also the author of many books of essays, diaries, and poems, including the books of Poems of a Wandering Jewess, published in 1982, and Love and Politics, published in 2001. And just this year, she published the Piscator Notebook, which is an amazing book, including her journals and history of that important theater person and artist and revolutionary. In addition, her Brazilian diary, which recounts the arrest and imprisonment of the Living Theater for 2 months in 1971, was published in Brazil in 2008 by the Department of Political and Social Order, which was originally the group under the dictatorship that was in charge of basically terrorizing people and quelling any kind of freedom of speech, which now has become an agency of archives and disseminating the information that was kept by that organization. So it's amazing irony that they're, and great actual triumph that they have published this book of Judith's journals from that time. Judith Malina's poems come from a variety of traditions, from the Old Testament and maybe older, to the most current version of street language, keeping it real above all, but real to the heart and to the humanistic achievements that have lighted our way throughout the centuries. In other words, her art is an art of tradition, where tradition includes the imperative of reinvention. She also believes in the inherent possible goodness of all people, calling for dialogue with the perceived enemy. Her poems express all of that in language that is continually testing itself, its limits of precision coming into focus through her mastery. Her relationships and friendships are touchstones in the poetry. Her poem, Conversation with Julian, contains these lines. You said that human wisdom leapt beyond the bounds of mere mentality. I denied nothing. Your behests, like any monarch's, can never be withstood. Also central is the awareness of social context. Malina develops a tradition of poets outside mainstream power structures. Responding to William Blake's infant joy, for instance, from his Songs of Innocence, Malina finds a reason to continue, quote, I said to joy, what is your meaning since we are doomed to death and every end is sad? Joy answered me, my name is death's delay, so I embraced her and I bade her stay. We observe Malina's play with language as delight, but also always as awareness and revelation of injustice. And with time, too, there is pure human awareness of the fact that, as she writes, nothing is permanent. Occasionally, she comments on the art of writing itself. In the end, there is always more to be done, more to be acted or enacted. From her poem, The Roundness of My Back, quote, on my back I bear my burden, but my body, though saddened, has not been defeated. I feel myself inexorable. As I demand the seemingly impossible, my feet are firmly planted on the ground. Fortunately for us, Judith has always had her feet firmly planted on the ground. Please welcome Judith Malina to DIA.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words, Vincent. Since this is a time when a lot of you are talking about voting, and I'll bet that there's even a bunch of you here that are actually going to delegate your advocacy to the majority, I'm going to start with a little anarchist poem against the vote, called Beware the Law of the Land. As long as the struggle continues between the unyielding man and the pliant female yearning, those who find reason to hate will hate me because I am a Jewish woman who wrestles with the language that calls the Holy One he, wrestles like a female Jacob wrestling with a testicled angel for the sake of the pure word that ungenders holiness. As long as there's competition, someone will win somewhere, and someone will be a loser. And there the cycle of envy and fear has already begun to play itself out somewhere, somehow. Chaverim, if we were chosen at all, we were chosen to suffer and teach. History shows us abundant suffering and teaching and taking the heat. As long as there's a sacrifice in the temple or in the butcher's shop, infringing the thou shalt not kill with 100 interpretations, someone will die. Someone will cry that the matzahs are made out of blood, and they will herd us again into the synagogue at Seville or Toledo for the immolation, for the burning of the Jews. When I first heard it said that the Jews killed Jesus, I asked my father, the rabbi, how could this be? And he said, it was a Jewish country under Roman rule, a Jewish country and a Jewish court. He was tried by the law of the land, a Jew among Jews. I was aghast. I thought, beware of the law of the land. As long as there's a weapon, there will be hatred of Jews. And the sanctification of the name will seep in between the cobblestones with a scarlet stench from the veins. As long as we put our trust in punishment and punitive law, some Jew somewhere will be nailed up. Beware of the law of the land. Come, Chaverim. It's time for the evening prayer. Here's a little one about poets. I had a little lunch I had. Seafood with poets. For Rothenberg and Baraka, who partook, and for Michael McClure, who abstained. Poets, didn't you think as I sat at the table watching you fork the oyster out of its shell and lift its jellied body to your mouth, that she realizes that you feel the pain of its death in your throat, or even worse, that you don't feel the pain of its death in your throat? For the people who believe in the stars, this is a contra Astro Ageia. And it begins with a little epigraph from the scriptures. May the day not be distant, O God, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. Not even the stars are immune from the human lie that fear has put into the mouths of those who have built a house inhospitable to the orphaned and unwelcome truth. The stars do not lie. The stars are bodies of truth that trace trajectories vast as the still unthinking form that baffles the mind till we call it the infinite. The stars that tell only the truth have been bidden to tell what is not yet true, to say that we see the pattern that we know to be present and real, and yearn for with passionate love. If only there were a sign inscribed like two tablets of law. If only there were a symbol like the vertical reaching up and the horizontal earth that holds us down to the real. If only there were a book. If only there were a man who knew what we do not know. Or we could nail down to the reaching and holding form to mediate with the unknown and turn the unknowable one into something as concrete as three. If only there were a prayer that we could repeat to the sky and know there is something above akin to an ear. If only we had not been enjoined to make no picture of God, How easy it would be then. We prayed to the Holy One, pleading, "Send us a sign. Save us from the fear of being a cipher lost in the random. Help us hope that the angel faces will smile. Better to burn in hell than believe we are nothing at all." And the Holy One created the pattern. Here we can see a form. By the repetitive stroke, we know there is one because there are many. The lines in the leaf and the hand, the heat of the waves on the shore, the turn of the seasons, the likeness of petal to petal, the symmetry of the animal body, the double eyes that see as one, the count of the flexible fingers, the pulse, which is the life, the cycle of living and dying, and the stars. Oh, that matrix, the stars that we could not explain, the planets that wander among them, the moon in their midst, that seemed to measure the measureless seas, praying for pattern and sign. How could we fail to see the signs in the empty sky, beyond the flight of the birds, beyond the veil of the clouds, something that moved and was still, something that made no sound, but seemed to reveal its pattern to the shepherd's contemplation, like a melody's rise and fall that already we realized was measure in the musical metaphor. The stars betray their placements, the wandering planets among them, tracing like pilgrims the season's route and recession. They seem to make pictures. The more we gazed at the sky, the clearer the images were. Could be that a bear or a dipper were one and the same, or that three stars, not aligned in the sky, but aligned in the focused eye, could seem like Orion's belt. The image, we said, is not given. It is not graven, it is given in the sky. Oh, frailty of need and desire that cries out, "Send us a sign." Oh, weakness of heart that battered against the terrible alternative of being nothing at all, crying out, better a false hope than an unendurable truth. Here's a funny little thought about love and politics. While off the Isle of Cyprus in a boat, I saw the head of Aphrodite afloat and told her, "I'm an anarchist and do not vote." She answered, "That's all right." I said, "Oh, figment of the classic mind, there are some crucial concepts to which you are blind." She only nodded so as not to be unkind and said, "Good night." "Oh, stay," I cried. "There are so many things we should discuss. The power of unnecessary kings, the sexual oppression of which Sappho sings." But she sank out of sight. Others. Others or circumstance, and the quality of their character, however close to perfection or however imperfect, are the facts of our life, like the landscape, like the force of gravity, like the theories of economics that lead us to conditions that engulf us or press against our valiant resistance. Others are blameless, and the motives for their actions, whether we admire them or fear them, are the source of our studies, like art or the sciences, like the cities we have built, like the economic structures that destroy us or press against our desire to change them. We are different from others because it is in the nature of the ego, whether we live in awareness or live unknowing, each like the singular quality of holiness that creates the model for the unification of the one and the many, which inspires us to press against the numberless obstacles. We are each other's circumstances, and the quality of our characters, whether we admire them or live unknowing, are the facts of our life, like art and the sciences, like the singular quality of gravity, like economic structures engulfing us and pressing against our desire to unite the one and the many. It's a poem about Rome, the palimpsest. Upon the layers of that palimpsest called Rome, on which I sit, crowning the past with the present, I feel it under me like a rickety throne. It plunges me with its thunders, rumbling down from the mystic crannies of its Alban hills, where Nemi's mirror twists the golden bough. I love its blood-stained, blood-soaked streets, where once I was a slave, where now I live an outcast in its walls, and the men who drive the buses from Tivoli to Rome laugh at my clothes. I live on the outer wall of Diocletian's baths, the public pleasure palace of a vicious king. Inside it now is housed the great and gloomy church designed by Michelangelo, the planetarium, and the Museum of Antiquities. I take my daughter of 11 years to show her how the glory of the ancient left its mark. We walk in the cloistered garden, defining the layers of the palimpsest. First, there were the Egyptians, and then the Babylonians, both empires in which we were slaves. Then came the great age of the Greeks, whose works we see both in copies and originals. And after them, the grandeur of the Romans. But we are Romans too, she said. No, ancient Romans. We were slaves again. Then I explained the Dark Ages, lit by the Byzantine mosaics, bridging the classic and the medieval, in whose garden we now walk, where the cloister was built upon the Roman ruins. Yes, there were the barbarians. They sacked Rome. Who was Helena? You mean the mother of Constantine, or? Yes. Wasn't she a Christian? Yes. The Romans became Christians. But we didn't, did we? No. When did people wear hoop skirts? And now, I think just because this is a poetry event and I have a rebellious streak, I'm going to read a little piece of prose. It's from my new book about my teacher, Erwin Piscator, and about how I became interested in theater and what happened. And this is about how I've lost the place. How my personal struggle to enter the school where Piscator was teaching, not very far from here, at the dramatic workshop at the New School for Social Research. I entered the dramatic workshop 5 years after it was created. 1945 was the year the Second World War ended. The dreadful ordeal that had drained everyone's energy and filled us with fears was over. It was a time when fear gave way to hope and to a rhetoric of optimism and a poetry of optimism. It wasn't easy for me to afford the dramatic workshop. My father's death from leukemia in 1940 had left me and my mother penniless, and tuition was $1,000. So I applied for and was eventually given a scholarship to cover half of it, and I had to earn $500 to cover the other half. I worked at 2 jobs. I had a daytime job at Consolidated Laundries, where I did the worst work, opening the bags and counting the dirty wash and dealing with all the other filth that people stuff into laundry bags from a nighttime. And I had a nighttime job as a waitress, a singer, and a hat check girl in Valeska Gert's Beggar Bar. Valeska Gert was the innovative, grotesque Tänzerin of Berlin, of Berlin's avant-garde in the 1920s, and an inspiration to the Expressionists. She often boasted that it was from her gestures that Mayakovsky derived the style of the constructivist theater. She, too, had fled the cultural darkness of fascism. In a cellar on the corner of Morton and Bleecker Street, in the very heart of Greenwich Village, she created a cabaret in a tiny cellar painted black with the ambience of a Berliner Kneipe of the 20s, but without a liquor license. Valeska, who had famously played the role of Polly Peachum in the Pabst film of Brecht's Threepenny Opera, named the cabaret the Beggar Bar. Here, she performed an extraordinary repertoire of solo satires in the grotesque style that she called irregularity, Unregelmäßigkeit. While I worked at 2 jobs, I was also preparing my scholarship audition for the workshop. influenced by Valeska's performances, I created a dance drama enacting my poem Lunar Bowels about a voyage to the moon or the risks of venturing into the great unknown. It was a very physical performance. I was to perform first for Maria Le Pescato, who received me in a blue velvet gown in her blue mirrored office. It was Madame Pescata's blue period. Maria Pescata was always called Madame at the school. It was an honorific in deference to her European roots. She had been a leading ballerina in her youth and had lived a full, adventurous life, the subject of several biographies and autobiographies. Madame lived a long time, and when she was 100 years old, she was still speaking of establishing Dramatic Workshop 2, a plan never fulfilled, but ever a part of her relentless ambition to fulfill Pescata's dream. I came to her with great trepidations, but she responded favorably to my surreal piece. I leaped about the blue office shamelessly, as only an 18-year-old could dare to do, with as much bizarre vocalization as I could borrow from Valeska Goetz's shrieks and whispers, along with the memory of a scratchy record my mother loved to play of her favorite actor, Alexander Moisey. I cried out, "My foot upon the moon, my foot upon the slippery moon," and I slid across the blue carpet till I struck a mirrored wall, ungravitated dance, and leap 100 feet. And it seemed like 100 feet as I jumped up as high as I could and landed face down on the blue carpet until my body, bones alone now, rattle in the moon like a dice in a big hand, and I flung myself, shaken by spasms, around the blue office. Madame approved my unlikely audition and authorized me to perform it again for Pescata the following week. By that week, there happened to be a crisis at Valeska Goetz's Beggar Bar. It was suddenly closed by the authorities for being a cabaret without a liquor license. Valeska served an eggnog concoction that was sold bottled in the grocery store across the street and had a slight taint of flavor of alcohol. My friend and fellow waiter, who went by the stage name of Françoise Lasseur, and was, in fact, the person who had brought me to Valeska's, was arrested for serving the eggnog. I vehemently urged Valeska to pay his bail. After all, most of us, including Valeska, had no idea that we were doing anything unlawful, and she reluctantly agreed to pay his bail. And then Lasseur vanished forever from New York City, and Valeska was stuck with the full bail, usually 10 times the amount of the bond. And all this happened the week of my audition for Pescata, when I was terrified of meeting the great man after years of hearing his praises sung And now, at last, I held my breath as the door to Piscator's office opened, and suddenly it was Valeska Gert who came out of the door. Piscator behind her, and seeing me, she shrieked in her most grotesque voice, "There she is! She is the one! She made me pay the bail! She made me lose all my money! It is her fault!" Apparently, Valeska had gone to Piscator to ask for some financial help during the La Sueur crisis. And by the looks of it, he had refused her, and I feared it was the end of all my hopes. In this cold, dignified manner, he ushered me into the office, ignoring the shouts of Valeska. I was shaken. Piscator's office was quite the opposite of Madame's romantic room. It was book-filled and paper-strewn, and behind the desk there was a large map of the theater of war, and he had placed colored pins to denote the battlefields, marked the front lines of the Allies and the Axis, designated the bombed cities, indicated the retreats and advances. How beautiful he was, his noble silver head, like the idealized sculpture of a Roman emperor, proud, authoritative, patriarchal, wise. This was the office of a political man. Nothing here was theatrical, dramatic, yes, but only in the sense that war is dramatic. In front of this Spartan desk, I danced out my moon poem. It seemed much less outrageous following Valeska's hysterical outburst. Piscator was pleased, and I won my scholarship to the dramatic workshop. And that's the beginning of a long story. Thank you.